From JBS Studios in Greater New York, this is the JBS News Update with Teisha Bader.
I'm Teisha Bader with the JBS News Update for Thursday, May the 12th, 2022. Israeli Prime Minister Naftali Bennett addressed the ongoing investigation into the killing of veteran Al Jazeera journalist Shireen Abu Akleh yesterday, saying today that unfortunately the Palestinian Authority is at this stage preventing any possibility of a joint investigation or even access to the basic findings that would be necessary to reach the truth. Bennett reiterated his expectation for, he said, open, transparent, and full cooperation regarding the findings, and that he expected the PA would not take any step to obstruct or taint the investigation. Israel has expressed sorrow over Abu Akleh's death and is committed to finding the truth of what happened. As of now, it is still unclear who shot Abu Akleh, who was in Jenin as a member of the press during an IDF operation there. Israeli forces entered the refugee camp looking for terror suspects after a recent wave of deadly terror in Israel committed by terrorists who were from Jenin and the surrounding area. When Palestinian gunmen opened fire on them, the IDF soldiers returned fire. The IDF stresses that the Palestinian fire was heavy and indiscriminate and was likely the source of the bullet that hit Abu Akleh, and that an initial probe found IDF troops did not fire at her. But Israel is continuing an investigation to get at the truth. Meanwhile, Palestinian Forensic Medicine Institute Director Dr. Rayyan Al-Ali was cited as saying that after an initial autopsy, it cannot be determined whether Abu Akleh was killed by Israeli fire or by a Palestinian bullet. The bullet reportedly belonging to a weapon used by the IDF and by Palestinian gunmen alike. Abu Akleh will be buried in Jerusalem on Friday. Last night, in his comments to the Knesset, Bennett noted that the Palestinian Authority rushed to blame Israel for Abu Akleh's death, and the president of the PA, he said, made unfounded accusations against Israel before any investigation had been carried out. Israel's embassy in Washington expressed its sadness over Abu Akleh's death and wrote, despite lies being spread, it's still unclear who's responsible, and Israel is committed to conducting a thorough investigation. Freedom of the press is a core Israeli value, and we are determined to protect it. And among those who also immediately claimed that Israel was not only to blame before any investigation, but claimed that Abu Akleh's killing was deliberate, included U.S. Congresswoman Rashida Tlaib, who tweeted yesterday that Abu Akleh was murdered by a government that receives unconditional funding by our country with zero accountability, referring to the Jewish state as apartheid Israel. Israel's ambassador to the U.S., Michael Herzog, responded to Tlaib's tweet, writing, "One would expect a member of Congress to support our call for an impartial joint Israeli-Palestinian investigation of this tragic event, rather than rushing to a biased conclusion. Acting as the judge, jury, and executioner undermines the causes of justice and peace." And Jewish organizations called out actress Susan Sarandon for a similar tweet claiming that Abu Akleh was executed, she wrote, by Israeli snipers. CEO of the American Jewish Committee, David Harris, called the tweet a blood libel. He wrote, "It's not based on facts. The facts haven't yet been determined, except by Sarandon and fellow travelers like Rashida Tlaib. It's based on hatred for Israel, pure and simple." Looking now at some other news, the president of Ecuador, Guillermo Lasso, is in Israel, the first sitting president of his country to visit the Jewish state. Lasso is accompanied by a delegation of 100, including members of his government and business people, and 50 young innovators. And today, Lasso inaugurated Ecuador's Office for Technology and Innovation at the Hebrew University of Jerusalem. Earlier today, Lasso met with Prime Minister Bennett, and last night was hosted at a special dinner by Israel's President Isaac Herzog. Well, a first-of-its-kind gathering of religious leaders from across a wide spectrum of faiths was held this week in Saudi Arabia. The Forum on Common Values Among Religious Followers was hosted by the Muslim World League. 12 rabbis took part, including the American Jewish Committee's Director of International Interreligious Relations, Rabbi David Rosen, who said it is encouraging and exciting to see the Muslim World League and Saudi Arabia exercise leadership to promote cooperation among the faith communities of the world. He said the work of forging a multi-faith alliance against extremism and hatred of all kinds, including anti-Semitism, must include traditional religious voices along with more liberal expressions. Every country and faith community has a role to play. Taking a look now at our programming for tonight on JBS for Thursday, May the 12th. At 7 o'clock, it's Talmud Study. At 7:35, Eli Kohanim speaks with UAE-based social media influencer and peace activist Loai Al-Sharif on global perspectives. At 8, Jonathan Tobin speaks with Karen Lehrman Bloch about classical liberalism and free discourse on Top Story. At 9, Mark Golub sits down with Jack Laub on L'chaim. At 10, Rabbi Erez Sherman speaks with Maiya Edelson about her softball career and her work as a leader of the next generation of Jewish college students. And coming up next, it's Good Week, Israel. And that's the JBS News Update for Thursday, May the 12th, 2022. I'm Teisha Bader. Stay healthy, stay well.